If you watched last week's broadcast, you may have had some pretty strong feelings about our opinion essay on so-called Karens. Well, you weren't alone. Our Nancy Giles certainly did.
The last few weeks have felt like one gut punch after another. From the murders of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd to that crazed 911 call by Amy Cooper. And all three events were, thankfully, captured on cell phone video for millions of people to see. Undeniable proof of the racist acts that some of us have lived with for a long time. So last week, when our broadcast aired an opinion essay on the term Karen and Karen shaming, I thought, really? Okay, here's the thing. When it comes to the Karens, Beckys, even Kens of the world, who don't like being called out for their gross behavior, always privileged and sometimes incendiary.
She calling police on an 8-year-old little girl. You can hide all you want.
Yeah, and illegally selling water without a permit?
You know what? Tough. There's something called consequences, and they need to face theirs.
Are you sure it's not because you don't want black people being out here?
It has nothing to do with their race.
The social media shaming is not more important than the horrific behavior itself. Calling someone a Karen isn't about sexism. It has to do with specific behavior and actions. A person who weaponizes their privilege.
My taxes pay for this place, yep.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, not to me they don't.
And by the way, calling someone a Karen is not the worst thing you can say. People of color in this country have been called a lot worse for a lot less. They are the real victims here. We've seen this Karen connective tissue throughout our history when false accusations led to the murder of Emmett Till, the conviction and imprisonment of the Scottsboro Boys, and were used as a diversion for Susan Smith, to name just a few examples. If you don't know their stories, look them up. That's the culture I'd like to cancel. Stop with the lies. That boy whistled at me. He was black, it was a carjacking, and then he kidnapped my children. 911, I'm being threatened by an African-American man. And while we're at it, let's cancel the microaggressions too. Here are a few that have been tossed my way. You don't sound urban. Do you live in this building? The Ultra Sheen auditions are down the hall. Now my white friends are finally seeing it for themselves on video, and they're starting to understand that they can never understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of this insanity. Black people have lived with this for 400 years, so it's white people's turn to deal with themselves. Time for the Karens, Beckys, and even the Kens to stop whining, take a beat, and try listening. It'll be messy and awkward, but if they're willing, they might just learn something. And that's worth it for all of us.